Single father. A deserted road. A young woman left to die in the storm. What Dorian Flintwood discovered on a rainy October evening wasn't just an act of cruelty. It was a calculated plan to commit the perfect crime. A plan that almost worked, if he hadn't taken one wrong turn. This is the story of how one decision to stop changed 3 lives forever. The rain fell in sheets, the kind that makes you question every decision that led you into it. Dorian squinted through his windshield as the wipers beat frantically against the downpour, guiding him along the sharp curves of Old Mill Road. He hadn't meant to be here. Construction on Highway 41 had pushed him onto this forgotten stretch of asphalt that wound through abandoned farmland and empty towns. He was already late to pick up his 12-year-old daughter, Mela, from piano practice, working through excuses in his mind when he saw it. At first it was just a shape in the storm. Then his headlights cut through the rain, and his breath caught. A wheelchair. Someone was sitting in it. He slowed, staring through the deluge. The figure didn't move, just sat huddled against the pounding rain. Dorian pulled over without thinking. His emergency flashers cast red streaks across the gray world as he ran toward the figure, water splashing around his ankles. Closer now, he heard sobbing, raw, broken sounds that fought through the roar of the storm. "Miss? Can you hear me?" She lifted her head, and Dorian felt something in him crack. A young woman, barely 23. Blonde hair plastered to her skin, hazel eyes full of terror and disbelief, as if she couldn't quite believe someone had stopped. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling with cold and something deeper. "Please don't leave me." "I'm not going anywhere," Dorian said. "What's your name?" "Audrey. Audrey Smith." They left me." Anger sparked through him. "Who left you?" She only shook her head as fresh tears mixed with rain. Dorian didn't ask anything else. He lifted her from the wheelchair, she weighed nothing, and carried her to his SUV. She clung to his jacket, shaking violently as he settled her inside, wrapped her in a blanket, and handed her a warm thermos he kept in the car. "We need to get you to a hospital." "No," the word was sharp enough to freeze him. "They'll find me there. They'll finish what they started." "Who?" he asked. "My stepmother. And my stepbrother. They did this to me." Her eyes were so terrified that Dorian knew she was telling the truth. "Okay," he said gently. "No hospital. But you have to get warm. And you're going to tell me everything." He drove toward home, calling Mela's piano teacher to arrange a pickup, then alerted his neighbor, Mrs. Pitake, a retired nurse he trusted. As Audrey warmed up, she explained in fits and starts how she ended up on Old Mill Road. She'd been left out there for 4 hours. Screamed herself hoarse. Thought she would die without anyone ever knowing the truth. They'd told her they were going on a family trip to grieve her father's death together. A spa retreat in the mountains. But the route made no sense. The turns were wrong. And when Bradley, her stepbrother, claimed he needed to check the engine, her stepmother, Francine, suggested Audrey get some fresh air. They helped her into her wheelchair, positioned her near the view, and drove away. Bradley looked her straight in the eyes before he left her. Dorian drove in stunned silence. "How long ago did your father die?" 3 weeks, she whispered. "Massive stroke. And the inheritance?" Her voice cracked. "He left everything to me. More than $2 million. Francine and Bradley each got $50,000. It was enough motive for anything. Dorian brought her home. Mrs. Pitake got her warm, checked her vitals, and settled her in dry clothes. When Mela arrived, she approached Audrey without fear or hesitation. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I'm getting there," Audrey said. "She needs somewhere safe," Dorian told his daughter. "She can have the guest room," Mela replied instantly. "It's on the first floor." That night, Audrey told them everything. Dorian paced the room, his investigator's mind already working. 15 years in insurance investigation had taught him to spot lies, and to dismantle them. He knew Francine and Bradley would have already filed a missing person report. He knew the police would be skeptical. He also knew he could find the truth. The next morning at the station, the officer listened politely but didn't hide his doubt. Francine and Bradley had been on the news, crying, organizing searches. Without evidence, it was her word against theirs. Outside, Audrey was devastated. They're going to get away with it. No, Dorian said. They won't. He called Jerome Washington, an old college friend and now an attorney specializing in elder abuse and civil rights. After hearing Audrey's story, Jerome agreed to take her case. They needed evidence. Something solid. Dorian spent 3 relentless weeks digging into Francine and Bradley's lives, credit card statements, social media, neighbors, hospital staff. Slowly a picture emerged of 2 people who had tolerated Audrey only because her father was alive. The moment he was gone, the mask slipped. A neighbor recalled Francine loudly complaining, "Do you know how much that girl costs?" days after the funeral. A hospital nurse remembered Bradley asking about the cheapest long-term care facilities while his stepfather lay dying down the hall. But the breakthrough came at 2 in the morning. A gas station charge on Bradley's card, time-stamped for the exact time he'd claimed to be 50 miles away searching for Audrey. The station was only 2 miles from where she'd been abandoned. Dorian called the owner, discovered footage existed, and with Jerome's help secured a subpoena. When they viewed the footage, the truth was undeniable. Bradley's car pulled in from the direction of Old Mill Road. Francine got out and went inside. Both faces clear. Both caught red-handed. "They were leaving me," Audrey whispered. "Not searching." Jerome smiled. "This is it." 6 weeks later, police arrested them both. The community was shocked. Their polished facade crumbled as charges piled up: attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, conspiracy. The trial lasted 2 intense weeks. Francine's lawyer painted Audrey as unstable and manipulative. But Jerome dismantled the lies piece by piece. He confronted Francine with the credit card charge, the footage, the timeline. She crumbled under questioning. Bradley fared worse. His confidence vanished the moment the video played on the courtroom screen. Witnesses testified about their cruelty and resentment. And finally, Audrey told her story, calm and devastating. She described the rain, the fear, the hours alone, and the moment she believed she'd die. "And then headlights appeared," she said. "And I thought I was imagining them. But the car stopped. And Dorian Flintwood saved my life." The jury took only 3 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Outside the courthouse, Audrey broke down in relief. Dorian knelt beside her and let her cry. "It's over," he whispered. In the months that followed, life took on a new shape. Audrey moved in permanently, not out of obligation, but because it felt like home. She used part of her inheritance to make the house accessible, ignoring Dorian's protests. "You gave me my life back," she told him. "Let me help build the one we share." She bonded with Mela. She brought laughter back into the house. She painted with the girl, helped with homework, listened to hours of piano practice. Dorian watched, feeling old wounds finally begin to heal. Slowly, something shifted between them. A closeness. A quiet, growing affection. Mrs. Pitakay noticed immediately. "You smile again," she said. "It's been years since I've seen that." One January evening, Audrey was making hot chocolate when Dorian finally asked, "Are you happy here?" She looked startled. "Of course I am. Why would you ask?" "Because you have options now. You could go anywhere." She rolled closer. "I'm staying because this is the first place I've felt safe since my father died. Because of Mela. Because of you. You see me, Dorian. Not the wheelchair. Me. He couldn't hold back anymore. He kissed her. They both laughed afterward, relieved, nervous, happy. When Mela walked in later and saw them holding hands, she only grinned. Finally, she said, "I've been waiting for you two to figure it out." 9 months after he found her in the rain, Dorian proposed in their backyard. Audrey said yes through tears, and Mela burst out of the house asking if she could be maid of honor. Exactly 1 year after the night on Old Mill Road, they married under autumn leaves in their backyard. Audrey wore ivory, her hair pinned with small white flowers. Mela stood proudly at her side. Jerome served as best man. Mrs. Pitaquet cried the entire time. Dorian's vows spoke of healing, new beginnings, and finding joy again. Audrey spoke of gratitude, courage, and the love she never expected to find. When Pastor Michaels pronounced them husband and wife, the backyard erupted in cheers. The reception was warm and glowing under string lights. Mela made a speech that left everyone in tears. "A year ago," she said, "my dad brought home a stranger who needed help. And I gained a second mom who chose us. Thank you for loving us when you had every reason not to trust anyone." As the evening faded into night, Dorian and Audrey found a quiet moment under the flower arch. "Happy," he whispered. "Beyond words," she said. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. Now I have everything." In the months that followed, they built a life rooted in love and purpose. Audrey started a non-profit to help disabled individuals targeted by neglectful families. Dorian used his investigative skills to expose guardianship fraud. Mela thrived with 2 loving parents supporting her. Sometimes, at dusk, Dorian would watch Audrey and Mela in the garden, laughing together, and think about the miracle of that wrong turn. He once asked Audrey what she thought would have happened if he hadn't stopped. "Sometimes I dream about that day," she said. "Sometimes I wake up back in the rain. But then I remember I'm here. I'm loved. I survived. And it feels like a miracle." "You are loved," he told her. "By both of us. By all of us." Old Mill Road still winds through abandoned farmland. Rain still washes its abandoned fields. But in one home in Marietta, Georgia, there is only warmth, laughter, and the quiet strength of people who learn the hard way that family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one you choose. The one that chooses you back. Dorian stopped that night because someone needed help. He couldn't have known he'd find someone who would save him, too. Sometimes the greatest rescues don't just save a life, they create a future. They create a family. If this story touched your heart, reminded you that kindness can change everything, and prove that found families are just as real as any other, share it with someone who needs it. And subscribe for more stories that show how love, courage, and compassion can triumph even in the darkest storms. Sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to drive past someone